Here's the main problem facing consumers today, and the problem that I write about in Meatonomics. The government and the animal food industry in this country make it very difficult for consumers to make informed and independent decisions about what to eat. There's a lot of influence in messaging with checkoff programs sponsored by the government that have messages like pork, be inspired, milk, life, beef, it's what's for dinner. And these messages that bombard consumers throughout all media, TV, radio, magazine ads, bus ads, convince us that we need to be eating more animal foods. We take that messaging program and couple it with very aggressive price manipulation through externalization of costs. This is how the animal food industry shifts its production costs to the backs of consumers and taxpayers. That drives prices down, and that double whammy of low prices and aggressive messaging is having a tremendous influence on consumers in this country. People eat somewhere around 200 pounds of meat per person per year, which has basically doubled in the last 70 years as a result of programs like this, price reductions, messaging. Because when you hear that message, I mean, that's the way advertising works. When you hear a message enough times, it has an influence on the way you behave. So people who are told beef, it's what's for dinner, in repeated media over and over again, eventually they get to the grocery store and they shop for beef because that's what they think they're supposed to be eating for dinner. That's the federal government providing that message. If I take my garbage and put it in the garbage can and put that at the end of my driveway for my garbage service to pick up, and I pay them to pick that up, I have internalized my garbage collection costs. And most people think that's appropriate because I created the cost and the mess, therefore it's appropriate that I would pay to clean it up. If I take my garbage and I dump it in the forest at night for somebody else to clean up, I would have externalized my garbage collection costs. And most people think that's inappropriate because I've imposed those costs on parties who were not parties to the original transaction between me and the garbage, essentially. In this country, animal food producers are externalizing the vast majority of their costs. They're shifting those costs onto the backs of consumers and taxpayers in society rather than bearing those costs themselves. In the book, I add up the total of those costs, and I conclude that for a recent year it was about $414 billion. That's billion with a B. It's a very big number. It's over half of what we spend on Medicare in this country. It's much larger than the annual budgets for many countries. It's an enormous figure. They're pulling that off by, among other things, passing aggressive legislation at the state and federal level that allows them to avoid the legal and economic consequences for their behavior. They pass ag-gag laws that say we can't be investigated, we can't be photographed, we can't be filmed, nobody knows what's going on. They pass right to farm laws which say we can pollute the air and water in our local environment, and if you live near us, you have no right to sue us. Those laws have a very valuable economic effect for the people who are doing the polluting. There's about $37 billion of environmental damage caused every year by factory farming in this country because of this exact problem. They're polluting air and water, and they've passed laws in every single state. 50 states have these right to farm laws that say we can essentially pollute with impunity in our local environment. They're not the only industry in this country who does that. The oil industry externalizes costs, the tobacco industry externalizes costs, but the animal food industry, in my estimate, has been better in it than any other industry in this country. These foods do appear to be inexpensive based on the supermarket prices, but when we pay those low supermarket prices, what we fail to understand is that those low prices have tremendous negative consequences for us in other ways. Those low prices are driving us to eat much more of these products than we would otherwise, and that is why Americans have among the highest rates in the world of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. We have about almost 3 times the rate of cancer as the rest of the world in this country, almost directly related to consumption of meat. Yes, you can pay a little less for a hamburger, but in a few decades you're going to have cancer. Is it really worth it?